But let's talk about some of these speeches. Many people don't know that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stepped in to get a young John Lewis to tone down his speech at the 1963 March on Washington. He intended to criticize, he being John Lewis, intended to criticize President Kennedy and the Democratic Party. But Lewis, at the last minute, um, acceded to Dr. King's wishes. But how do you think history would have changed if John Lewis had delivered the speech he really wanted to deliver?
Yeah, well, the short answer is I say that the takeaway from the march could have been the nightmare and not the dream. That John Lewis wanted to give a much more fiery speech than the one he did. And I'm loath ever to correct you, but
Yeah,
actually
please.
Lewis didn't agree when King said, please make changes. It wasn't until A. Philip Randolph basically begged him with tears in his eyes. So King says to Lewis, back, they're huddled behind the Lincoln Memorial, and in the book, in the archives, I found this amazing image of John Lewis underneath the arm of Abraham Lincoln, furiously reworking his speech. But Dr. King says to him, John, this speech doesn't sound like you. This doesn't sound like you. It had lines like, we will march through the South, through the heart of Dixie, the way Sherman did. We will pursue our own scorched earth policy and burn segregation to the ground nonviolently. It said, as you mentioned, we can't support this administration's civil rights bill because it's too little and too late. And King said, this doesn't sound like you. And Lewis said, yeah, but it sounds like us. It sounds like the
Mm.
SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the sort of youth and activist arm of the civil rights movement. So even though King had been John Lewis's mentor, it wasn't King that got him to do it. It was A. Philip Randolph who came to him and said, basically, John, I've waited 22 years for this. I've waited my whole life for this opportunity. Please don't ruin it. He said, we've come this far together. Let us stay together. And John Lewis later said, saying no to Randolph would have been like saying no to Mother Teresa. And so I said I would change the speech.